citizen journalism comes up, people are like, oh, they want to steal our jobs. You know, most people do not want to be reporters, as crazy as it sounds to us, because there's nothing I'd rather be. Most people have no interest in being a reporter or an editor, really, it's true. But they would like to have a say, they would like to find some way to be involved. So if you want to get them involved, one of the things in particular we learned on Assignment Zero is that you have to be specific about what you want. The Guardian did a pretty good job with that. They said, investigate your MP's expenses. They didn't say, you know, be a check on power. They said, I want you to investigate your MP's expenses, and here are the documents. So if you want people to do something, you have to be very clear about what it is, and you're better off if you actually break it down into smaller tasks, because some people only want to give you 5 minutes, some people might be willing to give you a half an hour or an hour. So keep that in mind. Another lesson is that you have to be flexible. When we launched Assignment Zero, we said, here's the website, come and join us. And people said, no. Because they didn't think the website worked. They didn't think there wasn't a good way for them to organize. There weren't team leaders that could sort of self-organize. And so we had to rebuild the site over a few weeks. And we were happy to do it because we got the feedback we needed. There's a bit of a lesson in software development there, but I won't go into that. But the reality is you have to be flexible. And if you're actually going to ask for their involvement, you have to give them a say in that involvement. And so that might mean redoing parts of your site. The other thing is that, yeah, you know, there is still that spirit of going after the press and checking your facts. And sometimes it's going to be really nasty criticism, and sometimes people are going to be impolite with what they're saying to you, and that's the reality of it. But just understand that when this criticism flows on you, you do have to be ready for it, and you have to be responsive, because the worst thing you can do is just sit there silently. Or the worst thing you can do is act like it doesn't matter, because it does matter. This kind of stuff can snowball. The last lesson is, of course, this larger message that for some reason, with expressibility and group action and the internet and all these things coming together, people seem to want to do this. And it's just something to keep in mind if you're trying to design a program to have more community engagement. You might want to think about something that involves fact-checking. So, in terms of what this means for the next few years, I have a few ideas, but in truth, nobody really knows what's going to happen over the next few years. So I always say that the only person who's truly wrong right now about the future of journalism is somebody who says they know what it is, because it's a very uncertain time. But here are a few things that sort of I think are happening. The traditional fact-checking model is what I would call a closed system that happens internally within an organization, and that is done strictly by your professionals or by your freelancers. Okay, that's what it has traditionally evolved as. And what we're seeing with this new kind of checking is that the systems are open, meaning people can sort of join or leave as they want. They're including people in things. They're a little more transparent than that, because, you know, if you fact-check an article, you don't sort of share your checking with the outside world, and most places that do fact-checking don't even like to tell the outside world how they fact-check. You know, I mean, Peter Canby was here and gave a wonderful speech, but he was also cautious that, listen, I'm going to tell you some things that you can't leave this room. That's common among professionals, but with fact-checking, if people want to do it, you're going to have to open up a bit more. So I do think that more open systems is the way to get people involved. They don't want to be part of a closed system that you control. And I think the pro-am model is a really good one for fact-checking, because if you're trying to get facts, it helps to have professionals and amateurs working together. So that's sort of, you know, a very broad idea of what we could do with this fact-checking. The second thing is that because of financial issues, and really even larger than that, the fact that I think a lot of media organizations don't value fact-checking enough, we're going to see a continued erosion of this kind of closed model, which might be a weird thing to say at a conference about fact-checking, but I'll just put it out there anyway. The reality in Canada and the United States is that, like I say, the number of professional fact-checkers are going down. When layoffs hit over the last few years, the first people who were leaving the room, who were leaving the office, were copy editors and fact-checkers. They were the first ones let go. And I think the reason is kind of simple. One is that they don't view it as valuable enough to keep. They see it as kind of a luxury, and I disagree with that, but that's the reality. The other part is probably that we haven't done a good enough job communicating to readers and to our colleagues the value of fact-checking. If readers knew that fact-checkers were getting laid off, would they actually raise concerns? And if they don't raise concerns, then why don't they know about it? And I think that might be something that's rooted in the closed system, that we haven't really told people a lot about this. It might be a bit of a failure on the part of fact-checkers for not sort of opening up and sharing that. And the last thing is that I think facts are going to continue to be used as weapons. I think you're still going to see these battles between right and left or what have you. You're still going to see them used as a way to try and embarrass a journalist. If somebody doesn't like the coverage that they're receiving, the first thing they try to do is spot a factual error in the reporting and say, see, they got this wrong, they must have gotten everything else wrong. That's going to continue, and it's going to get even more aggressive, I think, in a lot of ways.